Okay, well, welcome back to our last couple of sessions this afternoon. First of all, we've got Jenny Tsai, who is founder and CEO of Wearisma, and Lillian Betty, who is head of strategic partnerships at Time Inc. Now, Jenny is the CEO of Wearisma, which is a social influencer marketing platform, which helps brands and publishers find influencers who can tell authentic stories for them. And before founding Wearisma in 2015, Jenny led international digital strategy for Hearst. Lillian Betty is head of strategic partnership at Time Inc. and has generated media partnerships with organisations like the ITV, Universal Music and ITN. Before Time, at Bauer, Lillian built creative campaigns across multiple magazines and radio stations. So today, Jenny and Lillian will share do's and don'ts on how to expand the impact of your brand by partnering with influencers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, hi everyone. My name is Jenny Tsai, again, founder and CEO of Wearisma. Lillian, if you, I can actually. So here at Wearisma, our mission is to make the lives of influencer marketeers better. Our software effectively enable this discipline to be more analytical and systematic. So basically enabling the human practitioners to do what humans do best, creativity and strategy, and let the machine take care of the rest, the admin, the tracking, the reporting, the measurements, etc. We have two products. One is a discovery product which enable marketeers to discover relevant influencers, quality influencers worldwide to meet their different campaign needs, and an IRM, which effectively enable brands to have a repository of their influencer relationships over time so they can manage this and do the reporting of all the impact across teams, across geography.
And I'm representing Time Inc. And just a quick overview of Time Inc. We're a business built on great content based around the passions of our audiences. So hopefully you can recognize some of the brands here. We have 60 iconic brands in the UK alone. And we're creating about 10,000 pieces of content every week. And that's over 30 verticals. And we're delivering a total audience of about 30 million each week. So with our diverse suite of brands, our highly engaged audiences, and a myriad of stories to tell, we produce, distribute content across multiple themes and channels every day. So for us, understanding about new ways of engaging those audiences is very important.
So why influencer marketing? Just quickly go through, as you guys probably heard this quite a lot in the news. Well, the basic premise, the basic reality is that the consumption of media has fundamentally changed amongst consumers. Everybody has a mobile phone. We're 2.4 billion people, and this is in 2016, basically consume information on social media all the time. And as you know, with social media, if you don't follow a source, whether it be a publisher or whether it be a fellow influencers, you don't really see the content that appears in your feed. Otherwise, you see a piece of advertising. So you either see something from people you follow or brands you follow, or advertising. And this is the reason why it is estimated that 90% of the online conversation, in fact, is generated by 3% of the individuals or brands. So that is an incredible amount of power that these 3% of content creators have in influencing what is read, what is discovered, which products are launched, what is being talked about. And this is the reason why influencer marketing starts to become front and center in each of the brand's mind. And this is the reason why in 2017, 78% of the brands will or have had and will have an influencer strategy by the end of it. They need to understand whether they're leveraging influencers in order to create content, to do distribution, to drive SEO, to drive sales, to change perceptions. What is it? But they need to think about it, and they have started thinking about it. Influencers, as a general matter, they are individuals who are passionate about particular topics, be it food, fashion, beauty, travel, automotive, etc. They don't simply drive brand awareness, product awareness. They actually drive purchasing decisions. They also started to now being contacted by brands and agencies alike in order to promote any of the discovery process. Since 2015 or so, by now, it's very much part of the advertising strategy and will continue to grow over the next 2 to 4 years. In parallel, consumers have voiced the fact that the trust in advertising has declined constantly over the last 20 years. So I'm a millennial. I follow different people on social. When I go through my social streams, if there is a piece of content from someone I do not recognize, I know immediately this is a piece of ad. And I can either ignore it, I can either continue with it, but I know whom I follow. And if there is something that I dislike, I can just unfollow that source straight away. So this is the reason why brands and products and service owners need to start thinking about how they can create a conversation with the audiences they are trying to reach.
And with 84% of marketers expected to launch an influencer-led campaign next year, as publishers, we need to understand how this shift in spend and focus can impact our businesses. So from a Time Inc. perspective, our approach to the sector is based on our editorial heritage and brand experience. We believe that we've been influential to our audiences for over 150 years, creating conversations, recommendations, inspiring them, entertaining them with great, well-informed content. But in a rapidly changing and increasingly uncertain world, sharing thoughts, ideas, and inspiration with like-minded people has never been more important to our brands or our audiences. Because the people we want to work with, their voices are shaping the way our audiences think, behave, and live. And we're choosing people who have passions and values that chime with our own. So our business strategy is to continue to build on our editorial values, developing our brands and serving our audiences with quality content, however, wherever, and whenever they want. And we certainly feel that the influencer community can offer us an interesting route to our shared audiences. So from micro-influencers with the efficacy to engage and start conversations, to Instagram icons who are changing the face of fashion, beauty, and food and fitness for a new generation, Time Inc. will be collaborating with the best of them, a strategic blend of established and top talent. And our purpose is to use the skills we have and the expertise in content creation to extend our reach and level of engagement with audiences and build an alliance of contributors. We'll be the single point of contact for our talent, our teams, and our clients, and we'll connect brands with a strategic blend of talent to develop and execute campaigns that amplify content at scale, but also help brands to engage and activate with their audiences. We will continue to provoke conversation, we will drive engagement, but we'll also be ensuring that our brands get seen by the right people at the right time. And the vetting process is the most crucial part. And that is why we will be curating our network. We'll be looking at more than just the total audience that an influencer can deliver. We want to work to find contributors whose ideals reflect the broad values of our brands, and that we will manage and maintain those relationships in the same way we manage and maintain relationships with our editorial and commercial staff. And our structure has 3 key pillars. Our Time Inc. talent, which are our editorial experts, they're experienced and credible brand ambassadors, they're thought leaders and our advocates. And then Time Inc. contributors, we would call them midi and micro-influencers. These people are curated by our editorial staff, and they're seen as an extension of our editorial teams. So there'll be a selection of Instagrammers, vloggers, and bloggers contributing to our content. And then reaching outside of our network, we will work with celebrity influencers. They need to have a following of 500,000 plus, and we'll build long-term relationships with them, partnerships, helping them to work with us, but also getting them to support some of the important editorial issues that face our brands. Essentially, we're putting influencers and bringing them into the fold so they are embedded within our brands. And here's an example of how some of the campaigns have worked and how it worked successfully for us. So whether it's influencers taking front and center in some of our editorial and advertorial campaigns, to a reciprocal relationship on social where we will be sharing posts and information, to having them front some of the important campaigns and issues that we have from an editorial perspective, and most recently and most successfully has been working with them on research and insight. So we use them to understand more about their audiences. We work with them to understand more about the industry, and we also use them as our consumer research panel when we're looking at testing product or issues.
So Lillian reached out about a year and a half ago regarding their clients, Matalan, and we basically were able to leverage our software to analyze and to help them select the appropriate influencers for the particular campaign. The campaign was Matalan. They had a goal to drive product awareness, considerations, but also sales. One of their very important objective is to also change the perceptions of Matalan as a brand in a more fashion-focused manner. So in a way, we had to, based on the product collections, based on the various requirements, to identify influencers whose track record has demonstrated their ability to in a very trusted, authentic manner to carry out the objectives successfully. And that's the reason why we're able to utilize the technology to identify these influencers in collaboration with Timing and ITV to produce the show.
So the premise was, as we've mentioned before, it was to build fashion credentials, to increase awareness and to drive sales. And the big idea was an always-on partnership. So it was Matalan, ITV, Time Inc., and we created a bi-weekly chat show providing hints and tips on current trends, fashion essentials, and inspirational ideas for the home. So the show is presented by Denise Van Outen, and each episode she's joined by a Time Inc. journalist who's adding the voice of credibility and expertise, and style bloggers who essentially were representing the voice of the audience. So the partnership actually launched September 2016. It's called Matalan the Show. Check it out if you have a spare 15 minutes. It's full of style advice and inspiration on homes and fashion. And it runs across ITV, Matalan's digital and social channels, and it's supported by Time Inc. brands, delivering bespoke content across multiple platforms. But the use of influencers was quite new to them as a business, and it helped us understand how they can sit within the fabric of our content. So they were used for 3 different purposes: to build fashion credentials, to provide additional content and distribution channels, and as I've mentioned before, to represent the voice of the reader or the viewer. But it was a selection process that was most interesting. The criteria was thorough and meticulous. We needed authentic and credible talent. They needed to be mothers who could identify with the viewer, but able to talk fashion and style or interiors through the lens of their family. They had to have a following of a minimum of 50,000. They had to be likable and relatable to wider audiences. They had to have great on-screen chemistry. And each show was shot as live, and so the theme and topics they needed to be able to cover credibly, but they also needed to be able to present to camera in a natural and engaging way. The campaign has been incredibly successful. We're entering into our 2nd year. Some of just the highlights I would say is that we see a direct increase in sales. So once the show is on, or anything that appears on our social feeds or appears within the magazines, when it's on any of the presenters or the talent associated with the show, it generally sells out, and it generally sells out within a week. But influencers also helped the client to build a presence and following on new social platforms. So within the first 3 months of launch, they'd managed to triple their Instagram following and reach. But most importantly, it's actually given Matalan access to a new generation of customer, young, fashion-forward and influential advocates within their social groups.
So today, we've got a few top-line trends for you, and just to flesh out some of the opportunities. One of the things that is happening in the market, which I've personally found really interesting is 2017 is the first year where you started to see the creation of the job title influencer managers and head of influencers in different brands. This indicates that brands started to have their own in-house marketing strategies and are actually finding people to execute on these strategies. The first trends as result to that, we started to see an increase in huge sophistication in terms of how people would like to work with influencers. In 2015, it's largely a space for top YouTubers. So it's people you've heard of who are top 10, who are celebrities, and then people basically all flock to the same group of people and getting them to create content and distribute and reach their audience. In 2017, people are a lot more sophisticated. They're thinking about, hey, what is my marketing goal? Who are the particular people we're starting to approach? Who are their segments? Are we trying to reach mom on the one hand? We're trying to reach families, students, tourists, and then why don't we each of the groups present an influencer, a group of influencers, and see which ones actually drive the best impact by different products. And this is the reason why they start to understand fit, they start to understand relevance, they start to experiment more, and the ones that actually work really well, they want to build long-term relationships with these influencers. The second trend that people have is also that whilst you have the creation of influencer managers and so on, who's kind of overlooking that, there's a lot of coordinations involved. The responsibility of influencer outreach actually falls across different teams depending on the brands. The affiliate channels want influencers to backlink to the site. The SEO team want influencers to create content in order to rank better in SEO. Marketing team have particular campaigns that they want to drive. PR and comms teams want to build a long-term relationships. So it is quite interesting that different functions reach out to influencers with different sets of goals and therefore needs to be looked at a business level in order to figure out how to best leverage such relationship. And this is the reason why there is now a bunch of players in the industry basically spring up to serve these different teams. There's, of course, the traditional agency. There's, of course, more specialist influencer agencies. There is a number of marketplaces where you can submit a brief and get influencers to respond. And of course, there's the software companies such as ourselves who's looking at how companies across teams, across geographies are able to leverage influencers across the board. So I guess a question is, where do publishers fit into that? There's a few predictions, I think.
So I wanted to just have a look at some predictions over the next 12 months where we think this marketplace is going. And I think there are three key areas. Live, regulation, how this industry is going to shape for the future, and also collaboration, what that looks like. So firstly, we'll talk about live. So live, I believe, will be the next big influencer medium. It's bringing the world of influencer to life, creating a forum for fans to get better access and engagement for influencers to showcase their talents. But they also want to increase their repertoire and create new marketing opportunities for brands and partners. And we're seeing this already. So we're seeing this in industry events like VidCon, but also Gleam Agency have now launched Hello World, which is a showcase for all of their big name talent, from Zoella to Sprinkle of Glitter. You'll know if you're a fan of influencers, no one is. And also Post, which is a London-based event which is created for influencers, by influencers, over 3 days in the heart of London, looking at top talent, but also looking at showcases and encouraging people to learn how to enter in that space. We think it's a really interesting way of reaching this audience, which has so far been quite distant to us. So as a business, Time Inc. will be getting involved, we'll be curating and co-creating content at some of these events, because we think it's an interesting way of engaging with an audience that we need to know better. In terms of regulation and how that will work with industry bodies, the influencer market is largely unregulated and will require a formal body or an organisation to set and implement policies and support the sector. There's need and help to manage growth of this industry. But there's also a requirement to protect against the challenges that creators, clients and partners have. And we've identified three key considerations. First of all, quality. It is labour-intensive finding right influencers, and it's really difficult to determine their authenticity. Protection, this is a big area, I think. Fraud in terms of reach and engagement is on the up, and it's very difficult to protect brands against the increase in fake accounts. So we really need to find a way of identifying them and sharing that with the wider industry. And then finally, evaluation. There's no industry standard or clear definition of ROI, and it's really difficult to track results. Currently, the reporting process is lengthy and unclear, and it's difficult to really understand the efficacy of some influencers within those campaigns. So I think it's something that we've been considering, more of that to come, but it's something, if the industry is going to move forward, is certainly required.
Another prediction that we looked at is just that influencer collaborations will take place in a diversified format. So as I mentioned, there's different teams with different objectives, so therefore influencers may be looking at engaging with a brand via an event at one point, via just samples and commenting on product reviews, or all the way to the paid campaign. So organizations are getting more and more creative and understanding how they can create multiple touch points within influencers so that their products are effectively on an always-on level with the consumers.
And then we were asked to share our key learnings. So as a business that's relatively new in this new era, I just thought I'd share some of my findings. So first of all, build relationships. Establish a relationship with your influencer that's based on their needs and requirements alongside the needs of your business or campaign. Ensure that it's mutually beneficial and collaborative. Business is about give and take. So is there anything that your business can offer them that would be an excellent trade-off? Ideally, develop a connection before you approach them and to work with them. Taking this approach ensures that you don't come across as being disingenuous. And remember, these are people who have built careers and businesses around passion and credibility. They're a really close-knit community, and they are communicating with each other all the time. An ill-thought-through approach or poor treatment of an influencer can ruin your reputation as a business, and be in no doubt they share their feelings with their peers and their audiences. Secondly, I would say take time to source talent. Everyone is fascinated by this industry, and there is, I feel, a need for people just to throw money at influencers. I would say research them, track your key influencers, but also ensure that you establish best practices and rules within your business and ensure that those key principles are passed on to your influencer. You want to make sure that you're dealing and operate within the right company for your business. So whether it's the followers that they have or how they conduct themselves on and offline, just ensure that you're comfortable with everything that they do. Quality of content. Choose wisely. It may seem obvious, but it's really important to carefully consider influencers and make sure that they're appropriate for your business. The clearest indicator can be found in reviewing their existing followings and posts and look across all platforms. You really don't want to be associated with someone who makes an ill-thought-through remark that then is linked to your brand. And also be realistic of skills and talents and their abilities. This was a learning that we gained from the Matalan project. Never assume that an influencer's content or skills can be easily translated into different platforms or formats. It's really important to sort of align our expectations, and where relevant, support them, train them, and help them to fit into your formats. But I would also say it's important to embrace the environments that influencers operate in. It helps them maintain their authenticity, and sometimes they're best kept within that space. Set and agree guidelines and deliverables. I wouldn't assume that influencers are great business people. Some of them have developed their reach through luck rather than strategy. And so you can never really assume that they're media professionals. So always give them simple, clear, uncomplicated briefs that allows them to use their own creativity to create great content. and also ensure that all angles are covered. Everything from the brief, supplied assets, costs, expenses, live dates, be really prescriptive about the mandatories, provide hashtags, at mentions, key messages, and ensure that they are clear of the legal disclosure, but also that they're clear of their role within that campaign. How do they sit within that multimedia campaign? And finally, influencers are not islands. You need an integrated approach to your marketing, but for all their positives, they can't be relied on to replace other marketing activity. They work best as part of a fully integrated campaign strategy. So we like to think of influencers as pieces of the puzzle, albeit a piece with increasing levels of importance.
So this is why today it is such an important and fast evolving industry. We have set up a forum whose mission is to support and serve this sector, from brands owners, media owners, influencers, and working in conjunction with relevant industry bodies to discuss the issues, the challenges, and the opportunities that are bubbling up in this space. So if you have a moment and are interested in participating in the conversation, getting more information, we would love to hear from you. Please go and sign up on the mailing list, and so that we can all, as an industry, talk about how we can shape this industry for the better. Thank you very much.
Okay, I think we've run over slightly, but I don't know if we have time for a question or two, if anybody's got a question. Right, there's a question right over there. The green thing is there, so you might need to grab it and chuck it. Right, there's somebody just behind you.
Hi, I'm Srini from Vikatan, India. And my question is, like you said, one of the last points that you made is that influencers are they're quite sorted as far as what they expect from the brand in return for what they are likely to be doing in terms of enhancing the influence of the brand. Influencers can go both ways. They're a little fickle, so sometimes when they don't like what you do or what you ask them to do, have you seen any fallout by which they go on and do some negative, you can't really, expect them to go by the book. So when they go awry, or if they are, behaving differently on the social media platform, whichever you have designated them for, does that not affect timing's kind of brands?
Absolutely, which is why we were, it was about curating and sourcing that a contributor network that we could trust, that we felt comfortable to sit alongside us as content creators. And it is a really thorough process, so we are investigating all of those influencers to ensure that they are the right sort of people for us. We also get them to sign contracts, so it's not an exclusive relationship, but we do have terms and conditions and behaviours and practices that we expect from our teams, our internal teams, and we expect that from our influencer partners. So it just means that we have a small but perfectly formed group of people that we're comfortable to work with, as opposed to networks that are looking at wider people but not really doing the due diligence.
Yeah. Brilliant. Okay, well, we're out of time, so I think we're going to have to break it there. Although if you're around for a bit and people have got questions, they can perhaps grab you kind of like in a break. Thank you very much.
Thank you.